Hello and welcome to our third session of Priority Parenting. I hope you enjoyed the previous two, and if you have not checked, then please go ahead and click on the like button out there. In fact, I got a feedback after the first two episodes of Priority Parenting that it is not priority but powerful parenting. And it's feedback like these that motivate and encourage you to perhaps give a little bit more, and we feel very happy inside, a kind of satisfaction that some change happening, some good parenting techniques are being adopted. In a previous session, we spoke about a role of a mother, and we said mothers are pleasers who revolve their lives around child's benefit. We spoke about puberty in kids and how you change to the bodily responses, and we asked you a question: what is your ritual with your son or daughter? In today's episode, the session we're going to talk about is something more to do with boys, but in terms of the sensitivity. Dr. Meg Meeker, whose book we recommended last session, said that she thinks that boys are far more sensitive than girls. You know, a boy breaks down more over failed relationship than girls do. Boys fall apart over the death of the pets, or adult men emotionally shut down over the loss of a parent. So we are looking at this delinquency where hundreds of boys drop out of school, they end up selling drugs or joining gangs. The rate of boys being incarcerated is 14 times higher than women. And most of these young men are in their early 20s. What's happening to the boys? What's happening when nobody is able to understand their sensitivity? And the reason, one word answer, is the absent father syndrome. Believe me, we have a crisis of fatherlessness in the entire nation. It's a global epidemic. Men who create children but then disappear and neglect to play a very important role of a parent in their life. Too many men live with a desperate lack of meaning in their life, and they cannot give meaning to others. One of my favorite book, Man's Search for Meaning, in Dr. Franklin, the Holocaust survivor, writes that men need to have something significant, something worthy of contributing as they live. And what better than giving a child the childhood the child deserves? Now, let's look at some of the case studies across the world. There is this entire study done on ATM Fathers in Johannesburg in South Africa. Essentially, ATM is a machine you only go when you need them. And the study said that the research is available online, you can go and read them, where the higher rate of crime is associated with fatherless syndrome. So when fathers are not there, that sacred bond of a child looks upon is lost. Another amazing study which says that 1 out of 3 children in United States live in homes without their biological fathers. Now these are strange statistics you can look across, where either you are not there for the child, or the child is an orphan, does not make a difference. Your presence is so much important than the presents you get your child, but what are we doing? So here's a reflection time where we say the best inheritance a parent can give to his children is few minutes of the time each day. How amazing it is. Think about a time, that the bond that we spoke about. Last session we spoke about the ritual that mother does. I'm asking about the time father gives. It could be just carrying them on your back when they are young. It could be riding on a bike together. It could be sharing a few punches in a boxing match. Whatever that you can do with your children, do it, and do it consistently, do it daily. Let's take up a case study of this better son who became the bitter son. Brandon always loved his father, but unfortunately the father forgot that he had a son. The father got sucked into alcohol, he got into drinking problems, he stopped coming home, he would be late inside, and now the man was almost not there. Brandon was 10, and then he found out that he started having nightmares at home. The mother finally had a divorce, and now he started thinking of his father as some old man dying somewhere. What did Brandon do? Brandon took the divorce particularly hard. He started acting strangely. He would bully others, and the mother was helpless because she didn't know what to do. But despite that, mother's attitude was very, very calm. She was herself in terrible pain, but mother Nancy put aside her own feelings and guided her son through the hard time. The next few years were difficult for both Brandon and Nancy. But perhaps the toughest part was not being able to fix the father problem. However, Nancy was a strong mother. She did not make Brandon feel anyone should be criticized for the loss of the father. They started talking together. They started talking about issues. Mothers especially need to overcome this feeling of not talking about the father. She in fact went to the extent of talking about the good time he shared with the father. Believe me, this psychologically changed it. The son who felt worthless, unimportant and unloved finally had someone to share the feeling. The bitter son that he became, he actually overcome, and Brandon became a professional counselor just because what mother did. Today we talk about a lot of things that we can do. However, sometimes we forget that the best thing you can do is give small things. As we continue, there was a book by Gary Samley called The Blessing. And in that, he said the biggest blessing that a child can receive from the father is attention. Watch closely when the son talks to the father. Look at the expression on the face when he says to the father, "Look, I got an A on the test. Dad, don't you think I'm excellent? I'm growing up?" And he expects the validation from the father. It could be on a sports field while playing cricket or football, and he wants the father to notice how good he was. He wants the father to acknowledge his spelling improvements. He wants the father to tell him a word of appreciation. These small attention go a long way in changing a child from a meek, unconfident boy to one who's confident and he grows up. Believe me, a father's word is a powerful word. So make sure you are there to tell the word when the child needs them most. Now, I also understand the episode that we spoke about, the epidemic of being fatherless. So I'm going to give you 3 strategies on how do you overcome this epidemic, because fathers are not going to pick up the bag and say, alright, here I am, I'm going to be at home all around. They will still take the time. I hope fathers listen to this, take heed to it, but still it will take some time. So here are something both for parents and also specifically for mothers. Number 1 lesson for fatherless epidemic is don't do it alone. Don't go alone. Chances are you are trying to be a good mother and a father at the same time. You can't do that. Remember, parenting is not a solo job. Once Sushmita Sen, the leading Indian lady, who was asked a question, how is it to be a single mother? And she gave a very curt and a strange reply. She said 90% of Indian women are single mothers despite having good marriages and spouses all around. And we know what she meant, that actually you're raising a child alone. So remember to seek help wherever you can. Find adult man that your son, your daughter can observe. A grandfather, an uncle, a coach, a pastor, a teacher who he can relate to. I'll tell you something, as a man, boys are visual people. Men are visual people, and they need to create a mental image of a good man to follow. This is when there will be uncomfortable time when he'll not be able to ask you certain questions. So talk about the heroes in their life, bring up these heroes and speak about their values, the qualities that the children admire, and believe me, you'll have someone to learn to and trouble comes in. Number two, more important than the first one in the fatherless epidemic, is be careful how you speak of the father. Your son's father, your daughter's father is an important man in their life. And believe me, when you show your resentment towards the man, you're only building up the resentment in the children. So remember, your children will only parrot your beliefs, they will mimic your thinking about them. You speak negatively of the father, you speak negatively, they will grow up hating men. Girls will grow up hating men because mother said a word which was really sarcastic. So be careful how you speak about your own spouse, your own husband in front of your children. And one very important one, something that I exhaust telling people about, is pick the right battles. Number 3 strategy for a fatherless epidemic is, your husband's not 100% and no one else. Every man, every woman has their own errors. How do you deal with it is you reduce the battles you have at home. If you are going through a crisis in your relationship, pick up the right battles. Not every battle is supposed to be fought. Maybe you can just be courteous to him. Maybe there are times at the dinner table you will not argue with him. You will make a list of rules that are important to you and you'll say, we'll stick to this rule. For example, no drinking, or to a lesser extent, no smoking when our kids are around, or no smoking during X time, or no TV time over TV time, or no yelling in the house. Whatever you think, no overtly criticizing the children or talking about gambling or something else. Things you can really talk about. Make a list of top 3 things you want your spouse, the husband, to do with the son. Say, I want at least this part to be done. So these are the 3 strategies I would like to pick about, where as you talk about, the summary of the strategy is you criticize the behavior, not the man. This is really tough, but train yourself not to let your son or daughter know that it's the dad's behavior that is bad, not the dad himself. When negative incident happen, talk to your children about it. Tell them that dad's behavior was not appropriate, you don't approve of it, but does not mean you're going to leave him for that. This will really help as your children grow up into mature adults. So what is it that I'm going to leave you with? Oh, as fathers, here is my appeal to you. Believe me, your children love you. Your little girl, she loves you. When she's a baby, her eye searches for you. Her ears is waiting to listen to your voice, and only one question she has inside, which says, Daddy, are you there? If you are there, her body will grow better. Her IQ will rise. These are research things I'm talking about. You are her introduction to love. You are love itself for the child. When she goes to kindergarten, she thinks of her father as the strongest man in the world. Of course, she also thinks of you as the most handsome, which is a rarity in today's time. If another classmate says a hurtful remark to your child in elementary school, she boasts that my daddy will come and hit you. And she comes home to the house expecting the hero waiting for it. Daddy, are you there? As she goes to middle school, she puts on the first lipstick and she wants you to appreciate that. She won a competition, she wants to come and show that to you and make you feel proud. Daddy, are you there? When she's going ahead for her own men, in her own marriage, she wants you to be there and give the strength she needs, because she's searching for that man that you were in her own husband, in her own spouse. And when she has her own first child, she's diagnosed with something else. She walks out of her husband, or there is a crisis in her life. All she'll ask you is, Daddy, are you there? Friends, brothers, fathers, you are so important for your children that you need to be there all the time. Today's research book I'm giving you is by Dr. William Pollock, which says Real Boys, Rescuing the Children from the Myths of Boyhood. And one lesson I learned from the book, it says give him emotional vocabulary. Give her emotional vocabulary. Talk to her about the anger, the fear, disgust, sadness and joy. These are the 5 emotions that the Oscar-winning movie Inside Out had it. So I'm giving you these emotions. And remember again, becoming a father is easy enough, but being one can be very tough. You become a father when your semen is inserted. I'm sorry to use the crude language, but that's all you've done. But being a father is when you are holding your child's hand every time the child needs you. Thank you very much. You are watching Sky Education's TV and I'm your host Dawood Waid. Hope to hear your comment. Priority parenting is for all of us. Have a wonderful, wonderful parenting time ahead.